Welcome to episode 035 of A Problem Squared, a podcast where we set sail in a ship across the ocean of all human knowledge and experience in attempts to find solutions, distant solutions, to problems sent in by our listeners. I'm Matt Parker. I'm like the on-ship sextant, capable of doing ridiculously complicated and occasionally helpful calculations as we navigate our way across the ocean of all human knowledge and experience. And I'm joined by Beck Hill, the poop deck, because it's the funniest part of a ship.
I don't know. Sexton's pretty funny too.
It's also very funny. Both poop deck and sextant from Latin, otherwise boring Latin words that sound funny in modern English. There you are.
I'm amazed that you didn't say poop back.
The poop back instead of poop deck. That would have been funnier. This is why you are the poop deck of HMS A Problem Squared.
Yeah, I'm where all the action happens.
You are the structural roof to a cabin at the rear of the ship. I mean, there's no better way to summarize your place in the role. Whereas I'm kept in a box in a cabin.
Hi, new listeners. If anyone's never listened to A Problem Squared before, I swear this normally makes a lot more sense. There's a lot more clarified. But Matt is currently in Australia as we speaking. I can tell you're giddy. You're all hyped up.
I am.
I'm recording in a cupboard in London.
I mean, that's business as usual from your end. But despite being in different hemispheres, on this episode,
I'll be looking at how long it would take us to eat the moon if it was made of cheese.
I've run the numbers on dropping a bullet.
And we've got some any other business.
Let's drop this bullet. So, Beck, I mean, other than being in the cupboard, how are you doing?
I'm good. Been doing some voiceovers.
Oh, from the cupboard?
From the cupboard, yep. There's a thing called a Yoto player, which is like, it's basically if you've got kids and you don't want to give them a phone or an iPad,
right? Yeah,
you can give them this little box and they stick a card in and it will play like a story. And they've got an exercise series called Let's Move. And it's these 3 animals that lead kids through a story that involves exercising. The kids can listen.
They exercise along.
Be a part of the story, yeah.
Okay.
And I voice Kangaroo.
Of course you do.
Very much sounds like me now. It's like, hey, get off my tail.
Normal Beck voice.
It's 3 steps to the right, 1 step to the left, and clap. Got it? Okay. Great work at home, guys.
How detailed is the script? Is it word for word, or do you kind of improvise around?
It's mainly word for word, but I throw in improvisations, and sometimes they make the cut. I did. Here's a little. So the thing is, I've actually had friends message me and say, "Do you voice the kangaroo on the Yoto player exercises?"
No, that's so
good. They've got toddlers who use it, and I was like, "Well, yes." But there's an episode where we are trying to make bird sounds and they wanted just a range of us doing different bird sounds, and I did the Bluth family's versions of chicken noises from Arrested Development.
Has anyone in this family even seen a chicken?
So I've snuck that in there for any parents listening. They'll just hear me going like ka 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 ka. So hopefully that'll provide them with a bit of knowledge. How about you, Matt? What have you been up to?
I'm in Australia, as advertised, which is very exciting. Got to see my family for the first time in a while. And I bought a pair of shorts. That was one of the highlights of my trip so far.
Have you never done that before?
You
just wear the ones you find on the street.
I'm wearing the shorts right now. I'm not going to get up. What's amazing about the shorts is they cost me $1. I bought a $1 pair of shorts. I have never purchased a pair of shorts for that little money in my life.
Please tell me it's from a charity shop.
It was from a charity shop.
Okay.
Would you go op shop? in Australia?
Yeah, I would say op shop. Yeah, but I translate now for where we live.
You're in a cupboard in the UK, so you said charity shop. I believe thrift store would be the US equivalent. And so when I was packing, all my shorts were no longer up to, they wouldn't cut the mustard anymore. Coming out of the pandemic, I'm
You
starting
could say
to replace...
no longer up to your knees.
No, yeah.
They'd secretly become trousers in your spare time.
Exactly. I've lost a lot of weight and height during the lockdowns. And so I was like, what? All the shorts, I normally buy them in Australia. I hadn't been to Australia for a couple of years, so I was down on shorts. I was like, no worries. I'll head out. I'll get some shorts when I get there. And I packed like my bathers and some other ones. So I had backup shorts. And then but I think it's coming into winter here. No one's stocking shorts. So I was like, well, I'll go to the op shop. So I did a $1. I thought it was a pricing error. They're good shorts. But I got to the counter. They're like, no, $1, please. And I was like, can I pay on card? Like, oh, this guy.
Someone died in those.
Possibly. They are haunted shorts.
They're haunted shorts.
People have returned them several times.
That's why they're so cheap. If you get a good deal at a charity store, they're haunted.
They're a short horror story.
Yeah.
What would haunted shorts do to you, though?
I don't know, but I reckon I could get a book out of it.
I remember that stage of the writing career. That'll do.
I think haunted shorts, they'd be like cursed shorts. So they would just keep getting shorter until they become underpants.
Well,
Yeah.
I've not been measuring
And
them,
then they would go
but I
inside
feel
you.
like... I thought you wrote stories for kids. I feel like
I
a
did.
wedgie is the natural comedy ending to that.
Yeah.
I went to pay on card. My mum was with me. And she was like, no, I've got $1. So they cancelled the transaction. And then mum's like, oh, I haven't got $1. And so they had to put it through again. And I've been telling this story to everyone who will listen about the time I spent $1 on a pair of shorts.
When you went shopping for shorts with your mum and she
Yep.
couldn't afford $1. So you
I
have
was
to
like-
put it on your card.
He's had to put it on my card. Yep.
Are you doing okay, Matt? Are you all right? Do we need more Patreons supporters?
Look, I took the mum out. I was like, Mum, we're gonna go op shopping. I need to buy some shorts. We'll buy some books. We had a great time. We bought books and
You
shorts.
spent all your money on lasers and cameras for your
Yes,
special.
so true. From the highest highs to I need
The
$1
shortest
for
shorts.
shorts. One day you're on stage, the Bloomsbury Theatre. Next day, haunted shorts. Look, Beck, I mean, all our updates can't be, oh, I had a TV show. Oh, I was voicing a kangaroo in a wildly popular children's toy. Sometimes you've just got to buy a pair of shorts, And I'm not gonna try and glamour it up. It is what it is. All right, enough of my problems. Shall we solve someone else's?
Yeah, all right, let's do it.
Okay, Beck, the first problem was sent in by Will, who used the problem posing page at problemsquared.com, and they have said, if the moon was made of cheese, how long would it take for the people of Earth to consume it entirely? Good problem there, Will. They've also clarified some assumptions for you. They're going to assume people consume cheese at the same rate they normally would. So the sudden surplus of moon cheese wouldn't change their eating habits. There's no issue with transporting the cheese, and the moon is by volume, not mass. Very comprehensive background notes, Will. All right, Beck, what have you got?
Well, first of all, I love that this is Will's problem because it suggests to me that Will is some sort of supervillain with
Yeah, right.
some kind of cheese ray gun thing, and is just trying to iron out the kinks before they follow through with their major plan, or indeed a superhero who's trying to solve world hunger.
Oh, nice. In either case, you want to do a few quick calculations just to make sure that your plan is numerically feasible.
Yes, should always practice safe maths. So as you may have noticed, Matt, this is a mathsy question. I've wandered into your area.
You have. It was on my short list of problems. I saw it come in and went, that'll be a Matt one. And you were like, no.
Nah, your short list of problems is your shorts, mate.
Yeah, you know it. I was like, I haven't got time for it this time. I'm too busy buying shorts.
So I thought to answer it, I needed to work out what type of cheese the moon would be made of.
Oh.
And
Can I confess?
no.
Oh, okay. Not the appropriate time. I've never fully understood the moon is cheese joke. Is it just, does the moon look like a type of cheese? Or is it like some other historic reason for that being a joke? I have to admit, I've never really understood why that's a recurring thing.
Yeah. Well, but short answer, yes, it is because it looks a little bit like cheese. So there's actually no proof to suggest that anyone has believed that the moon is made of cheese. It has been referenced way back.
Really?
So,
Wow.
yeah. So to like almost ancient times. So the earliest mention of the moon being cheese dates back to a lot of folklore. There's a Servian tale, so that's like the Slavs. It's like a form almost paganism type thing. And there's a story about a fox that tricked a wolf. So basically the fox pointed at the reflection of a moon in some water and was like, oh, there's a delicious cheese.
Oh.
And the wolf then drank all the water to try and get to the cheese and then burst.
Wow. Oh, that's not the ending I saw coming.
Yeah. And there's obviously different versions of this. In fact, in the 11th century, there was a reference to that folk tale by a French rabbi called Rashi, but they'd mixed it in with some more biblical type texts as well. And it sort of continued on, and then there were more references to it in more modern times, but it's just sort of always been this whole suggestion that the moon is made of cheese, the moon looks like cheese or could be mistaken for cheese. So I thought to work out what type of cheese the moon is made of, I should just go back to what the earliest version of that is on record and work out what sort of cheese was around. So did a ton of research and eventually found that the most common cheese around the time that tale would have been told would have been very similar to what we today see as feta. So there's obviously different types with different names that I can't pronounce. It's like a Balkan cheese.
Right.
But it is very, very similar to feta. So I've gone with feta.
You know what? I agree. That was probably the most moon-like cheese that I could think of.
Yeah, I think other than that, like Swiss cheese, I think is, or elemental cheese, my dear Watson. Something like that. They've got holes in them, don't they? They look like big craters.
Yeah, but you've gone feta.
But I've gone feta. So I've done my calculations and found out the moon is roughly 22 billion cubic kilometers. And what I will say is I've used the proper measurements in all of these, but to say them out loud would take forever. So I've rounded them to say roughly, but in my actual calculations, I use the real numbers.
Oh, yeah.
I've done a Dexter in my calculations, but in explaining them, I will use the shorter versions. So the moon is roughly 22 billion cubic kilometers.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Cubic kilometer is big.
Yeah. Which is that blew my mind in itself. And then I had to actually go back and check. And yeah.
Did you get like the radius and put it into the calculation?
No, I got it off NASA's website.
Oh, that does it too.
Yeah, I figured I could trust that. I did check it against a few other websites just to make sure that I had understood.
Oh, you want to double check NASA? Make sure they haven't,
For reference, the Earth is something trillion. And I know from seeing your show and from reading your book that the difference between a billion and a trillion is actually very much. It's a lot.
It's pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, from memory, the moon's like a sixth of the size of the Earth, but that's like, as we've done many times, that's just the length. You've actually got to cube it to get the volume, which is why you've got such a crazy difference.
Yeah. So first I had to look at how many cubic centimeters are in 22 billion cubic kilometers.
Right, yep.
And I did it in stages just to help me. So it turns into roughly 22 quintillion cubic meters.
So you've gone from billion to quintillion. Okay, yeah, I'm with you. That's like an extra 9 zeros.
Correct. And then into cubic centimeters from there. Then I ended up with 22 billion cubic kilometers. That equals roughly 22 septillion cubic centimeters.
That sounds plausible. It's so weird for me because if I'm trying to think it through, my brain keeps trying to flipping it back into orders of magnitude, but I'm not fluent enough in septillion and quintillion to be able to do that. Because you're saying them like a normal human, whereas I'm trying to put them back into stupid maths version.
Would you like me to...
Carry on. This is my problem. I'll deal with it.
Okay. Then I wanted to work out how much cheese that would be. And with the help of our producer, Lauren, we measured...
How big is each... How big was the block of cheese you measured?
So the block of feta is 160 cubic centimeters. So I think it was 10 by 8 by 2 centimeters.
Oh, but that's like 200 grams of...
It's only 200 grams, yeah.
Okay, right. Okay, so that's your standard unit of cheese. Gotcha.
So then all I had to do was divide 22 septillion by 160.
Piece of cake.
Which turns out to be roughly 137 sextillion cheeses. Will wanted to know how long it would take us to eat it if everyone in the world was to eat cheese at the same rate as us. And I was able to find the numbers of how quickly... Now, by us, I'm going by UK because that is where we are generally based. So in 2021, the UK consumed 11.14 kilograms of cheese per capita, so per person.
Oh, that's assuming we convert all our cheese consumption into feta, moon feta.
Yeah, we're going to make that assumption. And I'll be honest, 11.14 kilograms of cheese per year, per capita, like for me, that is... I am definitely bringing up that average because...
Half of us are.
I'm definitely eating more than 11 kilos of cheese a year, I reckon.
A kilo a month. If you get like 250 gram blocks of cheese, a block a week. I mean, that's a lot of cheese now. I think about it that way.
Well, I mean, I didn't do the calculations with these, but the US is like between 17 and 18 kilograms per capita per year.
Oh,
and
but
Europe,
that's cheating.
Like,
they've got cheese in so many different forms. Like in America, you can spray it on things. It comes in slices that you just slide into things.
And Europe was something like just over 20 kilos of cheese.
Oh my.
Which you kind of expect.
Wow. So in Europe, if you wanted to take, let's say you're traveling, you want to take a year's of cheese with you, it's more than your checked luggage on a flight.
Yeah, what's checked luggage? Like 15?
20 kilos, yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be just
you can
over,
push it to 23. Maybe you'd get away with it, I reckon.
You could just get away with it. Look really innocent as you go through. So going by those numbers, if we were assuming that we were all just eating feta instead of any other kind of cheese, that would be the equivalent of us eating roughly 56 cheeses each per year.
Yep, gotcha.
Now, the current world population is 7.9 billion, which means that if everyone ate cheese at the same rate as British people, then we would consume roughly 442 billion blocks of feta a year.
That's about right.
So, with that in mind, I can tell you the answer.
Oh my goodness.
It means it would take us roughly 310 billion years to eat the moon.
Oh my goodness.
Which still sounds like a lot, but when you consider that we need to eat 22 sextillion cheeses.
I mean, I was expecting a bigger number than that, if I'm being honest.
Thank you.
In billions, that's achievable.
Yeah.
I mean, that's longer than the current age of the moon, which is like, I don't know, it's like under 4 billion or something.
Ah, so it's ripe.
Yeah. And it's been, space matured. I don't know how long the solar system is going to last. I feel like the sun will have baked it before, like expanded
fondue.
and fondued it before we have a chance to eat it all. I mean, you could factor in increased population in the future, but maybe with all this cheese consumption, populations will dwindle as everyone's time is dedicated to cheese eating.
Do you know what? That seems like a difficult number to aspire to, 310 billion. So I thought maybe I know that that's eating at the rate that we eat now, but what if we just ate, what we could? And if you recall, episode 002, where we tried to find out how much pizza is too much pizza, we found out the capacity for the human stomach. And I double-checked this because the human stomach was like on average about 2 liters when you're eating. And I did double-check a few things, but they do say that does convert quite well into about 2,000 cubic centimeters.
Oh, okay.
So
of eating capacity.
Yeah. So technically, we could eat 12.5 blocks of feta a day.
Oh my!
We would be overwhelmingly over our recommended calorie intake. I mean,
I think that's
our
a lot of
recommended calorie
calories.
intake is between 2,000 and 2,500, and one cheese is about just over 500 calories. So
okay,
you'd be going about 4 times over the limit.
So the first 5, no problem. So you're telling me I could wake up in the morning, eat 5 blocks of feta, and just be like, done for the day. That's my calorie intake.
I think legally I should say, please don't do that.
Oh.
But if we were to do that, if we were to eat 12.5 blocks of feta a day, all of us, the entire human race, and just assume that the population is going to stay the same, that for every person who dies, we're assuming that babies are also capable of eating this much cheese.
Straight, fair enough.
We could cut down. We wouldn't have to spend 310 billion years. We could eat the moon in only 4 billion years.
That I think you might have just got that within the expected remaining lifetime of the solar system, therefore the moon.
Yeah.
I've also just done a quick check here, looking up on NASA, and they say the sun has about 5 billion years to go. Normally I'd just ask my wife, but she's in the wrong hemisphere right now. And so NASA's next one down my list. 5 billion years. So if we max out,
we could do
as
it.
You describe, we can do it. It's achievable. That's amazing.
We just got to have 12.5 blocks a day.
You're just going to be dedicated.
Yeah. That's my new level of, my new area of expertise.
That's amazing. I hate to speak on behalf of Will, but I feel like they phrased their problem with such great detail and precision. I can very safely double check it ticks all the boxes. And I think you've solved that problem. You've both answered it as written, and you found a way we can do it within the lifetime of the solar system. So I'm going to give you a big old cheesy ding.
Thank you. There is a dinglet, or a wingding, if you will, for you, Matt. This is from Jay. And I actually might get you to help me with this because I'm not entirely sure if I understand the problem.
Oh, they're making some assumptions in this setup.
Okay, so Jay says, I heard somebody say today that if you shot a bullet and dropped a bullet at the same time, they would hit the ground at the same time.
Which is, well, okay. They're glossing over some details.
Okay.
But that is correct. So if you were holding a bullet and you also had a gun like perfectly horizontal, you're not shooting it down towards the ground. You're not shooting it up in the air. You're shooting it perfectly flat with the ground, away from you, preferably, and away from everyone else, come to think of it. And you let go of a bullet at the same time. And the bullet you fire there's nothing in its way. It's just going to keep going until eventually it curls down and hits the ground. It also assuming there's no air in the room, which is mildly inconvenient, and most shooting ranges will not accommodate this request. Or the bullet is big enough or in the air for not enough time that air resistance doesn't play a big part. Because if you're shooting it perfectly horizontally, it's got no up or down component in the force, in the direction it's moving.
Okay.
It's actually falling purely because of gravity. Because the shooting of the gun
That's
aspect
generally
is
how
only
falling
sending
works,
it forwards.
Matt. Most things fall because of gravity.
Yeah, yes, that is very true. But if you shot the bullet straight down, it would fall very, very fast because you've shot it down.
Right.
If you shoot it sideways, its downward component is only falling, which you are right, is all gravity.
Okay.
And so because the bullet you dropped and the bullet you shot are both only falling under gravity, they hit the ground at the same time. Therein lies the setup. And you can try this. If you get like a Nerf gun or something, and you drop a bullet at the same time you shoot a Nerf gun, they will hit the ground at pretty much exactly the same time.
I genuinely, I'm sure you're right. I think the problem is that when I shoot Nerf things, I think I'm shooting sideways, but I'm actually shooting slightly up, so it curves. Like the way you would throw a paper aeroplane.
Aren't you also doing like an awesome cartwheel to get into cover at the same time while shooting
I do it to
Nerf
Spy
rounds?
Break from The Matrix. That track. Yeah.
That's the one. The propeller heads?
Yeah, it is the propeller heads. I was going to say it, and then I was like,
yeah.
yeah, look at us nerds. So,
Yeah.
also, can
Us late 90s nerds.
I'm going to raise a point with you. No, do you know what? There's a time and a place, Beck, and this is not it.
Were you going to go one tangent too far?
It's just the fact that, they're shooting those security guards. They're not agents.
Oh, yeah.
They're just normal security guards who are doing metal detector things at this building. And I know that this is to save the world or whatever, but they're still real people. They say if you die in the Matrix, you die in real life. So they still literally murdered real life people.
And it's not like some films where you're like, oh, but they're evil hench people. Or they're like, they shouldn't be working for the mafia or whatever. But these are just normal chumps at their job in a building.
They're actually just working for the safety of other people. And
they're trying to protect people. And these jerks come in slow motion.
Yeah.
And awesome shoot up the place.
Right. Like if you were to watch that film
scene,
from the perspective of someone who is quite happy living within the Matrix and doesn't want to go out and live in the crazy world, that you are just watching two people rock up and just straight up shoot up everyone that works at this building.
Just murder you, yeah. Your last thought would be, wow, the bullets they're shooting are hitting the ground at the same time as the expelled shells.
Hey, does that mean
slow motion.
In that scene where it shows you the bullets falling out of the magazine in the helicopter and they're all falling in slow motion, they're coming out while they're shooting across into the building at all the agents around Morpheus while he's sitting in his chair, does that mean that those bullets will hit the ground? Well, yeah, because they're in a building and the other ones are just hitting
Well, if they
people.
didn't hit the building and there was no air and the second half of this problem, then yes.
Okay, cool, good. Right, let's bring it back. So that Jay then goes on to say, I generally agree with this, but I have a problem. Yeah, join the queue, Jay. The bullet travels in a straight line over a long enough distance. I would think the curvature of the Earth comes into it. The Earth falls away, meaning the bullet would have to fall further than the one just dropped. So my problem is, how much does the Earth drop away and how much longer does the bullet take to hit the... So my problem is, how much does the Earth drop away and how much longer does the bullet take to hit the ground because of it?
Okay, so I'm not going to properly answer Jay's problem here because you'd have, you'd look at what sort of bullet, how far it travels, how far the Earth curves. You could run all the numbers on this. What I thought was interesting is the same situation still works. So in the kind of realistic sense, where we're talking about someone holding a gun, shooting it, let's say there's a little bit of curvature of the Earth. even if the bullet curves with the Earth and you dig a hole so the one you drop can fall further, they'll still stay in sync. And actually, the idea of launching a projectile and it's trying to fall down to the Earth, but the Earth is curving away, that's why satellites and things stay in orbit. That's exactly what they're doing. Because if you gradually shot a bullet faster and faster and faster, at some point you would shoot it so fast, it would make it all the way around the planet before it was able to, the planet's curving away as fast as it's dropping because it's going so fast. And actually, I worked it out. You'd have to shoot the bullet at 7,900 meters per second. Or that's roughly, it's over 17,000 miles per hour. It's just over 28,000 kilometers per hour. If you shot a bullet that fast, it would go, and there's no air, it would go all the way around the Earth and come straight back to where you are. So you shoot yourself, and it's your fault.
It would actually go down a little bit, wouldn't it, over time? So you might end up shooting yourself in the foot.
Top-notch joke, but at that speed, it wouldn't go down at all. That's the speed to stay at exactly the same height. But how does that compare to dropping the bullet? So let's say you're going to drop a bullet, but you've dug a hole through the Earth. So if you had a hole that went all the way through the Earth and out the other side, straight through the middle, and ignore the engineering issues, ignore any practical concerns, you got a hole all the way through the Earth. If you drop the bullet, it's going to start falling because the Earth is pulling it down. But the further it falls, the less Earth there is underneath it to keep pulling it down because it's working its way through the Earth. Until it gets to the middle, and right in the middle, it's no longer any gravity because it's right in the center of the Earth. But it's now moving super fast. So it's going to overshoot. And what will actually happen is if you dropped a bullet into a hole, at the same time you shot another bullet so fast it's going to orbit the Earth, the one you dropped would fall into the hole, speed up, hit the middle, carry on, gradually slow down, come out the far side of the Earth, out of the hole, and then that's where it would slow down to a halt, exactly when it would be hit by the other bullet that you'd fired orbiting the Earth.
What?
They would hit at exactly the same point on the opposite side of the planet.
Show me you're working.
I can. I've got in great detail. I've done it both using integrals and I've done it using Python code to do it numerically. I did it a few years ago. I dusted off some old calculations. And even better, the maximum speed the falling bullet would reach as it's falling through the Earth, right at the center of the Earth, is exactly the same speed you had to shoot the bullet to make it orbit in the first place. It reaches the same maximum velocity halfway through the planet.
Oh, that is some good circle maths.
Oh, that's some circle maths. It's actually because it's doing it's exactly the same reason why if you shoot a bullet and you drop it, they hit the ground at the same time. It's because the downwards component is the same in both of them. And if you drop a bullet or anything through a theoretical hole through the Earth, it's basically moving. It's a sine wave, simple harmonic motion, and that sine wave is the up and down component of the orbit going around the Earth. And it would take just over 42 minutes from when you drop it to when it reaches the other side and gets shot.
So
42 minutes and 10 seconds.
That's why it's the meaning of life. We have to dig a hole
That's
through
why
the
it's the
center
meaning of
Earth.
life.
So,
Yep. I mean, the other thing, just to throw in there, and I apologize if people already know this, but that 42 minutes it takes for something to fall all the way through the Earth, that doesn't have to go straight through the Earth. That can be any hole going in any direction coming out somewhere else on the surface. If you slid something through that hole with no friction, it would take 42 minutes, exactly the same amount of time. In fact, if you're on any planet of any size that's the same density as the Earth, it always takes 42 minutes and 10 seconds. It's the constant for any size planet. That's the same kind of rocky planet, same density as the Earth. A hole going in any direction from one point on the surface to any other point, it always takes the same amount of time for something to fall through that hole, which is the same as the time it takes for grazing altitude orbits around the same planet.
does that mean in Total Recall, when they get that lift thing that goes through the center of the Earth, that they would.
You're thinking of the recent remake. I say recent. You're going to tell me it's like, it was 2011.
It probably was that, actually.
The remake of Recall. Yeah, they go through the Earth, and that's exactly this concept.
So do they have a moment where they go, they're all floaty in the middle?
With the middle, you're in free fall the whole way, but then you're slowing down. That's a really good point.
I guess it's the same as when you're in a lift
in the middle,
and the lift goes to the top and you get that little moment of "Ooh" in your tummy.
Yeah. I think interesting, because my instinct is when you're in free fall for the first half, you wouldn't feel anything because you're in free fall. But then the second half, you're slowing down, so you would feel something. But that's not symmetric. Oh, that's weird.
That's a different problem, isn't it?
Someone answer that for us.
Oh, Lauren, producer, has come through. She says it was made in 2012. Oh, so close.
See, I knew. I was like, recent. It's a decade ago.
I'm surprised you didn't get it spot on. You're such a big Colin Farrell fan.
So what?
Got that big poster of him behind you. Well, I think you've done a fantastic job there. So I think that's a ding. I mean, I'm still not entirely sure what the question was, but it's look, I'm interested. I found it interesting.
I've done something. Yeah.
I'll give you a ding. And Jay.
Thanks.
I'm sure Jay does too.
Let's let Jay decide. We are pretty much at the end of the episode, which means OB, it's any other business.
Hooray!
So back this time,
yes.
We've got some reviews. We've not done this for a while.
Ooh.
We like to read out the reviews that people leave for us on popular podcast platforms, mainly iTunes, let's be honest, because doing that encourages people to do it, which is hugely beneficial as it pleases the algorithms that be and makes our podcast more prominent and therefore more able to keep making it. So what reviews have we got in, Beck?
I think it's Shimpei. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. XHIMPEI, who says, good listening, gave us 5 stars.
I'd go Shimpei.
They said, listen to this podcast if you enjoy maths, banter, popular sandwich franchise-based reproduction analogies, and resting sarcasm voice. I would say that you should listen to it even if you don't like those things.
Listen to this podcast if you're ambivalent towards maths, banter, popular sandwich franchise-based reproduction analogies. What was that one?
That's your Subway sandwich choices.
Subway.
Actually, do you know what? That might have been me, Matt. That might have been me that came up with Subway. That sounds like a Beck analogy.
Did you do that? Next review, also 5 stars out of 5 by someone who goes by TLMB, all caps. You can decide what that stands for yourself.
Too long, Mibum Beeb.
Too long, might browse. They wrote a joke that was so good, they used it twice. The title of the review is Exceedingly Good.
Hey-o.
With ding in exceedingly. Good work. And they open their review by exceedingly good stuff.
Love it.
Covering an eclectic range of things that may or may not be a problem for you. Hey, I think they're all realistic and pragmatic problems, but are for somebody. And so our hosts set about, this is like the voiceover, and so our hosts set about solving them using some or all of maths, logic, data, and ingenuity. And then they just chucked 2 in-jokes with no context at the end. They've just shouted nubbard, and that is not my card. So, excellent.
We also had 5 stars from Wardy B, who says, a prime time show. And they've put prime in quotation marks. Fantastic stuff, Wardy. Love it. A monthly podcast has now become a bi-weekly podcast. This makes it 2.16667 times better.
It's good work. It's accurate. I mean, if people are on the fence thinking, if it was just over twice as good, I'd get involved, this will convince them.
Yeah, that is great. Thank you so much to those people for leaving reviews. And please leave us, send us a message. So if you don't have a problem, but you have something that you want to say, leave it in a 5-star review. And we're more likely to read it. It's
the best way to communicate with us. There's also, of course, the problem posing page.
No, don't say that, Matt. Don't say it.
Oh, no, sorry. At iTunes.apple. I don't know what the website is. So, now reviewing is not the only way you can support us. I mean, just listening, that's the first step. Thank you so much. And you're listening right to the end. Good on you. You're our favorite. You can also tell other people about the podcast, and a select few people support us on Patreon, which we are very grateful. And we understand not everyone can afford to do that. So thank you very much to the people who do, that make it possible for everyone else to listen. And we like to pick 3 names completely at random every time to thank, which this episode are
Simon Job or Job.
Yuting Liu,
And John E.M. Standing for extra
for
menthol.
extra money. Yeah.
Fresh. Fresh.
You have been listening to A Problem Squared, featuring myself, Matt Parker, as always, Beck Hill, and our producer is Lauren Armstrong Carter. The only thing left to do, and people who listened last time will know, I'm working with not quite my usual deck, but I'm now holding up 4 cards. Beck, is this your card?
No.
Okay, I think I'm pretty much where I was a month ago.